Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome all of you to our webinar for today. Thanks all of you for signing in. My name is Osei. I'm with the ECOSOCC Secretariat. I will be the moderator for this webinar. I would like to start by welcoming our three presenters. I will have a few words to say about them in a bit. But just to give you a little bit of a background about the webinar and the two institutions who are producing this webinar. So the webinar is a production of the African Union through the Economic, Social and Cultural Council, ECOSOCC, which is the civil society organ of the African Union, and also the African Development Bank through their Division for Civil Society Engagement. So we are the two partners behind this webinar series. The main objective of the series is really to amplify the voice of our continental institutions regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. As you know, we have the Africa CDC that is at the forefront of issuing guidance and public information to the African population with regard to how they can keep themselves and their communities safe within this pandemic period. And so we as institutions that have civil society platforms are coming in to provide a bridge to the African population through the networks that we have with civil society to make sure that Africans everywhere are able to access the information that they need to keep themselves, their families, and their communities safe. So this is really the main objective of the webinar series. Today's episode will be number 7 in the series, and it will be focusing on the role of technology in the fight against the pandemic. We have had different episodes focusing on different areas, and we are very excited to have our presenters with us for today's session. As we know, technology has become even more critical in the fight against the pandemic. It has always been an important tool that has been available to us, but I think the lockdowns and the confinement that we are seeing across the continent has really brought into sharp relief the really critical role that technology has to play, because now we have to connect to one another through technological instruments like the webinar that we are having today. We cannot, meet together in a room, and there's even more critical for people that need to access medical information, public health guidance, and so on. It's really quite important for us to look at how we can deploy technology to amplify the voice of the CDC and the role of civil society in making sure that people have access to the information that they have. So this is really going to be what we're going to focus on for today's webinar. So let me give you a little bit of an introduction as to how the webinar is usually organized. So we are going to start after my introduction with the presentations right away. As I mentioned, we have 3 presenters with us today. All of them going to be speaking to the issue that we have as our focus for today. We have with us, in order of presentation, we have Dr. CISSE Kane, who is president of the African Civil Society on the Information Society. Dr. Kane is one of the leaders of ECOSOCC, so we are very happy to have him to speak to us in this role. And then we will have, following Dr. Kane's presentation as well, Madame Balkisa Ide Sido from Facebook, and she will be speaking to us on the topic from the perspective of a large corporation that is involved in communication, such as Facebook. So we are very excited to have Madame Sido with us. You will have seen from your invitations that we had another presenter originally booked from Facebook, Madame Jeanne Ilon. She has had to be excused due to an unforeseen circumstance, but we are very happy to have Madame today. And then our third presenter will be Mr. Nelson KWAJE, who is representing an organization that is active in South Sudan, Cameroon, Kenya, and Ethiopia. And he will be giving us the perspective from the point of view of society. So what we'll do is we'll have these presentations one after the other, and then we will launch straight into the Q&A. So I would like to invite you, as the presentations are ongoing, to go straight into the Q&A section on your Zoom platform and type your question directly into the platform. So if you have a question, for instance, for Dr. Khan, you can just use @Dr. Khan or @Madam Sido or @Mr. KWAJE, so that we can transfer your question to the appropriate presenter. So that is really the way that the webinars have been organized, and that's the format we're going to follow today as well. A couple of housekeeping notes. We are on Twitter. We are doing some social media around these webinar sessions. So if you are active on social media, we invite you to use our hashtags for the two co-producing institutions. So for the AFDB, you can tag them as their handle, sorry, is at AFDB group, AFDB_group, sorry. So you can find the AFDB on Twitter at AFDB_group. And for ECOSOCC is at A-ECOSOCC, and the hashtag that we've been using is Africa CSO response, hashtag Africa CSO. So if you're active on social media, please use this hashtag to share information about the web. So with those said, I'm very happy to invite our presentations to begin. As I mentioned, we will take the lead presentation from Dr. CISSE Kane from ECOSOCC. Dr. Kane, you have the floor.
Thank you, William. Good morning, everyone. If you allow me, I will speak in French. Je vous salue, je suis très content d'être ici à cette occasion de la réponse.
All of you, I'm delighted to be here on this occasion.
Cette réponse à la pandémie du Covid. I'm hearing the voice of the interpreter. Is it possible to, because it's donc l'idée c'est vraiment de donner la perspective de la société civile sur ce thème important qui est comment l'innovation technologique, les médias sociaux et la connectivité peuvent aider à contribuer à lutter contre le Covid. Je dirais d'abord que le Covid, c'est une pandémie mondiale qui a un impact incroyable. C'est un défi majeur à l'humanité pour plusieurs raisons. D'abord, la pandémie, elle a été inattendue. Ensuite, il y a la rapidité de la contagion. Et puis surtout, il n'y a pas de médicaments ni de vaccins. Et voilà, donc la lourdeur de la médication aussi, avec la quarantaine, l'isolement, le confinement, les masques et tout. Donc, ce qui fait qu'on est dans une situation inédite, où on est obligé d'utiliser tous nos moyens pour pouvoir rester en vie, tout simplement, parce qu'il n'y a plus de transport, il n'y a plus de voyage, il n'y a plus de...
Dr. Khan?
Yes.
Dr. Khan? I'm really sorry. I'm just seeing from the comments there's some issue with the interpreters. So if maybe the interpreters can advise, I think there is some issue. People cannot hear the interpreters. So the interpreters, can you advise, or can the host advise? We do have interpretation for the webinar. So normally people should be able to select English or French, and then they can hear it from their, can hear the presentation in their language of preference, but it looks as though there is an issue. So maybe can the interpreters advise if there is something that we are not doing properly? Okay, but generally speaking, when you go on the interpretation button, do not put it at off. There are three options. One of them is off, and then English and French. So you have to select one of those languages in order to actually hear the interpreter. So if maybe by mistake you have it at off, you're not going to hear them. Okay. I think it's fine. I can see people saying they can now hear the interpreter. So let's proceed. Dr. Kane.
Donc, je disais que c'est une pandémie mondiale qui a un impact global. C'est tous les pays du monde qui sont touchés, même des porte-avions, même des bateaux de croisière. Et que le défi est inattendu. Donc, on est obligé d'utiliser des moyens pour pouvoir survivre. Et le plus puissant moyen qu'on puisse utiliser actuellement, ce sont les technologies de l'information. Parce qu'il y a un problème de contact physique qui peut avoir à développer la maladie. Donc, c'est pourquoi je dis que nous sommes très heureux de pouvoir faire des propositions concrètes. J'ai ouvert l'information sur ma page Facebook hier et je vous assure, le nombre de propositions en relation au TIC, ça explose. Je ne parle pas de ce que je reçois par mail. Donc, les grands défis, les grands challenges, donc c'est vraiment la nécessité de pouvoir continuer à vivre avec cette maladie jusqu'à ce qu'elle guérisse et en prenant des mesures. Et la technologie de l'information, c'est devenu un passage obligé, forcé, parce que justement, il n'y a pas d'autre moyen pour pouvoir faire certaines choses. Les autres atouts de l'Afrique, c'est que la pandémie est relativement très peu développée en Afrique. Et c'est le seul continent aussi qui a une réponse globale concertée. Même dans les autres continents, il y a des réponses, mais il y a des conflits entre les pays. Mais l'Afrique a cette chance de pouvoir parler d'une même voix autour de la pandémie. Depuis qu'elle a été commencée, on a vu des chefs d'État se parler, on a vu des décisions fortes qui ont été prises, notamment à travers la CDC, aussi avec la mise en place de la task force.
Very interesting decisions taken through CDC
et donc,
and also through
toutes ces questions-là font que
task force.
On a un espoir que cette pandémie pourra pouvoir être gérée de façon exemplaire par l'Afrique. Pour une fois, l'Afrique, comme aussi avec la zone de libre-échange, comme des questions comme ça, l'Afrique s'est levée d'une même voie et est en train de travailler ensemble. Et le fait aussi qu'il n'y ait pas de contact avec l'extérieur nous a obligés aussi à imaginer des solutions endogènes. Et c'est tout ça qui fait que nous, en tant que professionnels du secteur des technologies de l'information, on pense que les TIC sont l'outil par excellence pour pouvoir venir à bout de cette pandémie, en tout cas pour aider en tant qu'outil à cela.
I think there's a real issue. People are hearing, and I can hear also the two voices coming on top of one another. So what I would suggest is we discontinue the interpretation for now while we figure out the situation. Dr. Kane will just speak in French, and then we will take notes and we will do a summary in English at the end. I think that is better because now people can hear anything.
I can also wrap up in English at the end. It's possible.
That would be perfect. That would be perfect. Okay. So if you can take maybe the next 2 to 3 minutes to wrap up in French, then you can take another 2 to 3 minutes to give us the highlights in English.
OK.
Thank you.
Donc, je disais que à travers un concours panafricain qui recherche des solutions au Covid.
So, I was saying that through Pan-African
des solutions
competition, we can come up with to COVID.
Se prémunir contre le Covid jusqu'à la médication, jusqu'à l'utilisation des médicaments. On peut trouver ça. On peut mettre ensemble aussi tous les scientifiques. Et on peut demander aux jeunes Africains de nous proposer des solutions sur tous les aspects liés au Covid. Et nous, en tant que société civile, on est là pour pouvoir organiser ça, pour pouvoir atteindre ces jeunes-là à travers les réseaux sociaux, mais à travers aussi toutes nos organisations membres qui sont à travers le réseau de l'ECOSOCC, à travers le réseau d'ACSIS, mais aussi à travers d'autres réseaux. Et nous pouvons être le relais de ces instances de l'Union africaine auprès des populations, parce que la plupart d'entre nous, nous parlons les langues africaines. Nous allons pouvoir utiliser ces ressources-là pour pouvoir les remettre dans cette réponse globale. Ce que nous aimons bien dans cette stratégie, c'est qu'elle est globale, elle est panafricaine, elle est impulsée d'un point de vue global, parce que le mal, il nous atteint nous tous, et nous avons la possibilité d'y remédier ensemble. Et l'Afrique qui est en train de donner l'exemple de façon parfaite sur la manière dont on peut gérer ce genre de crise. Et donc, les réseaux sociaux sont là pour nous aider, mais nous avons tout le vivier pour cela. Et donc, sur la base de notre expérience, nous pouvons nous appuyer donc, sur le dispositif en place en demandant tout simplement au dispositif de l'Union africaine de continuer dans cette logique d'inclusion et dans cette logique de solidarité entre les différents acteurs. Et la société civile a toujours été un fer de lance de tout ce qui est développement de nouvelles technologies en Afrique. Et justement, c'est le moment où, parce que les TIC sont une nécessité pour combattre le Covid. Et donc, je vais m'en arrêter là. Je vais essayer de traduire ça en anglais. I'm going to wrap up a little bit what I said, just to say that the issue of the COVID, it's an unprecedented situation where the entire world is affected. The pandemic is global, and we have never had such globality in a pandemic. And also, it was surprising, and also the way it gets from someone to another, it's very quick, and we don't know how to face it. And we don't have medicine and vaccine, and we are obliged to stay at home. That means that there is no communication, there is no movement. All these together puts us in a solution where we have to use the ICTs. We have to use the social networks to communicate, also to find out solutions. And platforms like ACSIS or like ECOSOCC are platforms that are continent-wide and that are represented in all the countries. And we are in a position to propose solutions, to spread out the main decisions, but also to foster innovation and to find out solutions. I was taking two examples. The one is that thanks to the solidarity, African governments has started to find solutions like Madagascar, like in the RDCs, like, for example, the drones in Tunisia and in Rwanda, and the robots in Tunisia. So not all of the countries are trying to find out how to combat this pandemic. And if you look about hygiene and sanitation, we can see also that we can use the potential of these young people to organize innovation contests where we can ask them to find out solutions. And these innovations, solutions for example, combating COVID can be organized through platforms, ICT platforms. And we have the experience because we have organized already the e-commerce mobile application African Awards, which is an innovation to foster the e-commerce in Africa. And we have lots of excellent profiles throughout the continent. And we just need to join our forces and to use the civil society platforms to spread out this innovation program so that we can go back to the grassroots and to the young people and find solutions to combat COVID. And also we welcome the solidarity and the Pan-African vision of the African Union and the African states. We see lots of solidarity. I think Africa is the only one continent who is combating COVID in this manner, so that we have a task force, we have the CDC, and we have all African Union bodies, but also all governments. Presidents are talking together. They have created a fund, and the civil society can be the arm to spread out all these decisions, all these, and to communicate also around all the findings and all the threats and all the challenges. And most of us are very, very well educated with background and also talking local languages. So we can have access to the grassroots and take the best of Africa and bring it to a continental framework. And also we can use our expertise and our solidarity as civil society to spread out the decisions taken by this task force. And we have lots of opportunities where we had this experience to be developed. And I think now we are forced to use ICT because there is no movement and we don't have the horizon. We don't know when this pandemic will be stopping. And I think this can be an experience also to develop a global response for any other pandemics. But there are some challenges in Africa that have to be addressed with regards to ICT. One is the question of access, because in some countries the internet is still a challenge. And also the question of costs of connection, cost of access to internet. And I think if we put all our forces together, we can find out solutions also to lower these challenges, so that most of the Africans will benefit from the use of ICT to combat the COVID. And we also have our SMEs that are suffering now. And this COVID can be an opportunity for African countries and people to use the ICT to heighten the level of access to ICT. And you can use the civil society platforms that, like AU-ECOSOCC, that are present in practically all the countries. And also ACSIS is especially working on ICT issues, but ACSIS is a member of ECOSOCC. And these platforms have already extensive experience in creating dedicated platforms to put together, for example, the expertise or the main findings against COVID that has been put on the table by Madagascar, by RDC. Why don't we put it together in a platform so that every medical solution can be put it together and tested and from the first communicated throughout this platform to all countries and all African people. And civil society is here to send the messages to the people. And we have, I'm just going to stop here. It was just a wrap up. And maybe if there are some specific questions, I can answer later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kane. I think you can have a second career in interpretation. Thank you for stepping in and bailing us out there. Apologies to everyone for the issues that we've had with the interpretation. I think it's a demonstration in real time of you know, how technology can be such an asset, but can also present some challenges of its own in terms of communication. So sorry about that, and we thank you for your patience. We will move on to the next presentation, which I'm very excited about, because one of the things that we have discussed a lot about KISA in the previous webinars was this idea of how do we really come to grips with the issue of false information, right? Misinformation, all of these myths and things that unfortunately the technology platforms that we have are also serving as vehicles to really circulate these bits of misinformation. So I think it's really great that we have you here from Facebook to really speak to us about how we should be using, and also how we should not be using technology platforms like Facebook. But that's just something I wanted to recall from the previous webinar series that we've had. So I'm very happy to invite you, Madam Wakisa Ibe Sido, to speak to us in your language of preference about this topic. If you're able to, maybe we can also ask you to do a quick summary at the end in the other language, so that we can try to service those of our participants who are not fluent in your language of education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Osei. Dr. Kane, thank you for the brilliant presentation and recommendation. Good morning, good afternoon to all. I think I'm going to follow suit Mr. Dr. Kane. I will present in English, sorry, because French is actually my mother tongue, and then I will summarize in French. So to echo Dr. Kane's voice, I would really like to thank the organizers for this important initiative, and also the opportunity of being part of this panel. So my name is Sido, and I am Public Policy Manager for Facebook, and I cover Francophone Africa. Prior to joining Facebook, I served as researcher for Amnesty International covering Central Africa. If I joined Facebook, it's actually because I recognize the power of the platform in this region, as well as the enormous potential of social media as a force for positive change. A focus of my role as a public policy manager is to co-create opportunities for Facebook and Francophone African countries to promote the development of the information and communication technology sector. So I work closely with my colleague Jean, who is our Human Rights Program Manager for Sub-Saharan Africa, and who is actually supposed to be part of this panel, but couldn't join, so I'm replacing her. So together with Jean and other teams, we work with civil society organizations, NGOs, and other policymakers to create an enabling regulatory environment for digital rights. So as you can imagine, my role covers a range of topics from online safety, privacy, online freedom of expression, and any other policy areas relevant here. Talking more specifically about the topic that brings us all together here now, COVID-19. I'm sure you all agree with me that the coronavirus pandemic has underscored the importance of internet connectivity and also the central role of social media to communicate essential public health information and keep people informed. And a key area of Facebook work actually, since at least January, when the World Health Organization mentioned that coronavirus is now a global health issue, we have worked round the clock to keep people safe by informing them, giving them information about the outbreak. So we provided tools, we continue to provide them. We also facilitate access to virtual meetings in the context of social distancing to maintain relationship and keep people connected. I'm not going to go back to all the measures that were already mentioned by Dr. Kane, and which include quarantine, confinement, social distancing. And it shows really that despite the struggle we are going through right now all together, there is a need for us to try as much as possible using the tools that we have to really continue to live in this new normal. So we partner with a range of organizations to also combat harmful information on our platforms. Talking more specifically about our COVID-19 partnership, we work closely with authoritative sources of information on the pandemic, such as the World Health Organization, UNICEF, Africa CDC, and also national ministries of health to connect people with accurate information and help limit the spread of misinformation. So Facebook is actually over 2 billion people that use our platform at least once a month. And what we do is that we provide these people with resources from health authorities through our COVID-19 information center and pop-ups on Facebook and Instagram with over 350 million people clicking through to learn more. So we have launched the Coronavirus Information Center on Facebook almost in all countries, including across Sub-Saharan Africa. And this information center actually appears on top of everyone's Facebook feed and provide people with latest information, latest updates and tips from global but also local health information, because we acknowledge that health information actually varies from a location to a location, especially when it comes to measures that are implemented by governments. We also give health organization what we call ads credits to help them increase the outreach of their health campaigns, coronavirus campaign on Facebook and Instagram. And something else that we did is to partner with this health organization at the global but also national level to launch the WhatsApp health alerts. It's a kind of chat bot, free to use, designed to answer questions from the public about coronavirus, and also to give prompt, reliable, and official information 24 hours a day worldwide. This also serves government policy, government decision makers by providing the latest number and situation reports. So it's a chatbot, like as I mentioned, service that uses USSD like model to provide information about coronavirus to WhatsApp users. Misinformation was mentioned by the moderator. So as part of our efforts to provide communities with accurate information from authoritative health sources, since January, when COVID-19 was declared a public health emergency, we have taken aggressive steps to limit the spread of misinformation about the virus and connect people with reliable information, as mentioned previously. So we have expanded our international fact-checking partnership to cover more than a dozen new countries. In March alone, we put warning labels on about 4 million pieces of content based on around 4,000 fact checks from our independent fact-checking partners. And I can tell you that when people saw this label, 95% of the time, people did not click past them to view the false information. We also continue to proactively remove misinformation that could contribute to imminent physical harm, such as information regarding the fact that drinking bleach is a remedy against coronavirus. So we remove such information because it can cause imminent physical harm to people. And we have removed hundreds of thousands of this content. So talking about our international fact-checking program, so globally, we work with more than 60 independent third-party fact-checking organizations, and they cover 50 actually languages globally. And their role is really to identify, review, and rate viral misinformation on our platform. And now to be more specific to Sub-Saharan Africa, our partners include Africa Check, AFP, but also France 24 observers. In French, it's Observateur de France 24. And the program in Sub-Saharan Africa covers 18 countries. And we also cover different local languages such as Hausa, Swahili. I would like to, if the moderator allows, open here a bracket to talk a bit more about our misinformation approach and how we enforce on content of misinformation. So at Facebook, we really think that reducing the distribution of misinformation rather than removing it outright strikes the right balance between giving people a place to express themselves and creating a community that is safe and authentic. So our strategy to combat misinformation on Facebook has 3 parts. It's remove, reduce, and inform. So talking about the first one, remove. We remove content that violates our community standards, which enforce the safety and security of the platform and include the most misleading and harmful form of misinformation. Second step, reduce. So we reduce the distribution of content that does not directly violate community standards, but still undermines the authenticity of the platform by reducing its distribution in the newsfeed. And our research actually showed that by doing that, we reduce by 80% the chance that users actually see that misinformation or false news. And third step, we empower people to decide for themselves what to read, trust, and share by informing them with more context in product. Informing is like, you know, you put next to the misinformation, the information that is provided by our fact checkers. And we encourage users to check our fact checkers say about that specific information. So in addition to all the support that I mentioned, we also partner with the Independent Fact Checking Network to launch a $1 million USD grant program to increase their capacity during this time. We have also worked to provide more tools to them, such as CrowdTangle, which helps them track trends across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit. And we also provided an additional $1 million USD grant to the International Fact-Checking Network from WhatsApp, actually, to support fact-checking for the Coronavirus Facts Alliance. And it's this alliance spans more than 100 organizations in at least 45 countries. Now, since most of the participants are from civil society, I would like to talk a bit more about our work with NGOs during these difficult times. So we understand actually the crucial role played by NGOs in keeping societies informed, raising awareness, and building public campaigns to address policy issues. We work with NGOs to improve their abilities to use our platform for social good projects and to address harmful content such as misinformation and hate speech. We have also moved all our capacity building programs that used to take place in real world to be virtual, so we can continue to address challenges faced by NGOs. And amongst these programs, I can mention the ones around digital literacy, but also online safety for activists. A few offering for NGOs include a blueprint for social good training. So it actually provides NGOs with free trainings on how they can leverage on social media during this unprecedented time that we are going through. There is also Workplace for Good, which is actually a tool to assist organizations in staying better connected in order to in order to assist NGOs during this time. We have this workplace is now actually for free, and all NGOs can make a request to be able to access it. So it's really a great tool that helps people work in a collaborative way while social distancing is being prescribed and recommended in several across the globe. So we also put in place, guidance on how to use Facebook Lives, and we also provide ads credit as well. But I would like to put a caveat here, because ads credit around COVID-19 provided to NGOs only to promote the following issues. So there's mental health, fundraising and support for hospitals and health workers, economic recovery, and also media literacy to reduce the spread of misinformation, support students, parents, educators, and faith leaders affected by school and religious community closure, and of course, arts and culture. So the last but not least, I would like to talk about our Facebook for Good initiative, and the fact that we release actually 3 different types of disease prevention maps that help researchers better understand how COVID-19 may spread, and be able to use those really to make recommendations on strategies to combat the pandemic. So I think I will stop here so I don't go over time, and I'm going to recap in French, if it's okay with you, Osei. Okay.
Yes, please go ahead. Merci beaucoup. Allez-y.
Ok. Donc, je disais tantôt que Dès janvier de cette année, en fait, lorsque l'OMS a déclaré que le coronavirus est une pandémie, nous avons mis en place plusieurs solutions pour soutenir les autorités sanitaires à travers le monde, que ce soit les autorités sur le plan global comme l'OMS, UNICEF, sur le plan régional comme le Centre de contrôle des maladies infectieuses de l'Afrique, CISSE, ou les ministères de la Santé en Afrique, pour vraiment veiller à apporter la bonne information aux populations. Parce que nous savons que dans la lutte contre le coronavirus, il faut que les populations aient la bonne information sur les méthodes préventives, mais aussi la bonne information sur l'évolution du virus sur le plan global, mais aussi sur le plan national, mais également sur les mesures spécifiques qui sont prises dans chacun de leurs pays. Donc, nous avons eu à lancer plusieurs produits, comme par exemple les centres d'information sur le Covid-19, qui apparaît en fait en haut du fil d'actualité de tous les utilisateurs de Facebook et qui leur donne les dernières mises à jour, les derniers conseils sur le plan global, mais aussi national. Et tous les utilisateurs de la plateforme, et aujourd'hui, je peux vous dire qu'on en a plus de 2 milliards, peuvent avoir accès à cette information-là qui vient de sources indiquées comme les ministères de la Santé, l'OMS et CISSE, comme mentionné tantôt. Nous offrons également des coupons publicitaires gratuits aux autorités sanitaires pour leur permettre d'atteindre le maximum de personnes à travers leur campagne de sensibilisation sur Facebook et Instagram. Nous avons aussi lancé WhatsApp, les centres de WhatsApp Health Alert, qui est un service gratuit qui est en fait mis en place pour permettre de répondre aux questions du public sur le coronavirus 24 heures sur 24. Donc, c'est un service qui fonctionne un peu comme un chatbot. C'est un peu le modèle USSD. Donc, quand l'utilisateur va là-dessus, il peut écrire tout ce qu'il veut pour vraiment démarrer la conversation avec le chatbot et le chatbot envoie après un menu et la personne peut choisir la thématique qui l'intéresse pour voir plus de détails là-dessus. Donc, tous ces efforts que nous mettons en place, c'est aussi vraiment pour pouvoir apporter un contrepoids à la désinformation et aux fausses informations qui circulent partout. Donc, en apportant la bonne information, ça donne en fait au public l'opportunité de décider en fait et d'aller vers cette bonne information. Et nous avons vraiment nous avons vraiment fait des pas vraiment agressifs pour pouvoir lutter contre la désinformation. Ça ne sonne pas très bien en français. Je ne sais pas trop comment traduire ça. Mais en tout cas, ce qu'on a eu à faire vraiment plus dans les détails, c'est qu'on a eu on a étendu notre programme de fact-checking à plus d'une bonne douzaine de nouveaux pays. Et quand je prends le cas de l'Afrique subsaharienne, aujourd'hui, ce programme, il est disponible dans plus de 18 pays. Et on travaille avec des partenaires tels que Africa Check, l'AFP, les observateurs de France 24. Et nous couvrons aussi des langues locales. Et j'avais mentionné tantôt le Swahili, le Hausa. Et il y a également d'autres langues que nous couvrons. Donc, j'avais fait aussi une parenthèse pour parler un peu de notre approche, de notre stratégie face à la désinformation. Et j'ai mentionné le fait que Facebook, nous ne nous positionnons pas comme des arbitres de la vérité. Nous ne détenons pas, nous ne sommes pas des arbitres de la vérité. Donc, pour nous, en fait, nous pensons qu'une approche qui vise à réduire la viralité des fausses informations est vraiment la meilleure approche pour maintenir un équilibre entre la liberté d'expression, d'opinion, d'accès à l'information et aussi maintenir une plateforme, une communauté qui est sécurisée et qui est authentique. Donc, notre approche, vraiment, c'est sur 3 piliers. C'est retirer la fausse information, réduire sa distribution et informer nos utilisateurs. Donc, quelles sont les informations les fausses informations que nous supprimons. Ce sont les fausses informations qui violent les standards de la communauté de Facebook. Les standards de la communauté de Facebook, ce sont en fait les règles de Facebook, ce sont les règles sur ce qui peut ou ne peut pas être sur la plateforme Facebook, mais en même temps, ce sont des règles qui permettent d'assurer la sécurité de notre plateforme et qui, vraiment, ça inclut la majorité de tout ce que vous pouvez imaginer comme contenu qui peut avoir un préjudice dans la vie réelle. Et deuxième étape, réduction. Donc, les fausses nouvelles qui ne violent pas les standards de la communauté, nous réduisons leur distribution en les réduisant en fait dans le fil d'actualité. Donc, au lieu qu'une nouvelle apparaisse en haut lorsque nous savons que quand nos fact-checkers nous disent que c'est une fausse nouvelle, nous la menons en bas du fil d'actualité. Et nos recherches ont montré que ça réduit de 80% en fait la probabilité qu'un utilisateur puisse voir cette fausse information-là. Et la troisième étape, c'est que même si l'utilisateur arrive à cette fausse nouvelle-là qui a été mise en bas du fil d'actualité, nous fournissons à l'utilisateur la possibilité de voir l'information fact-checkée par nos partenaires fact-checkers. Et nous informons et encourageons l'utilisateur à aller plutôt vers cette information. Je vais par la suite mentionner d'autres types de soutien que nous apportons, y compris une subvention de 1 milliard de dollars que nous apportons au réseau international de fact-checkers pour vraiment leur permettre de renforcer leur capacité. J'ai parlé aussi des outils comme CrowdTangle que nous avons mis en place et qui permet de voir un peu quelles sont les tendances, ce que les gens disent sur les plateformes comme Facebook, Twitter, Instagram et Reddit par rapport au coronavirus. Et plus spécifiquement par rapport à notre collaboration avec les organisations de la société civile, les ONG, j'ai mentionné le fait qu'à Facebook, nous sommes conscients du rôle important et central que joue la société civile pour informer, mais aussi sensibiliser les populations par rapport au coronavirus. Et nous apportons notre soutien dans ce sens-là, y compris lorsqu'il s'agit de la lutte contre la désinformation ou les langages haineux. J'ai mentionné la plateforme Blueprints qui offre des formations aux ONG sur comment vraiment utiliser les réseaux sociaux pour continuer leur travail et pour mieux communiquer avec les populations. J'ai également parlé de Workplace for Good, qui est une plateforme qui permet aux organisations de travailler de manière collaborative. Et j'ai parlé aussi des conseils qu'on donne par rapport à Facebook Live et aussi des coupons publicitaires gratuits qu'on donne aux organisations de la société civile et qui, en fait, on les donne aux organisations lorsqu'elles veulent mener des campagnes qui sont relatives, par exemple, à tout ce qui touche à la santé mentale, lorsqu'ils veulent faire des levées de fonds pour les hôpitaux ou les travailleurs de la santé, lorsqu'ils veulent faire des campagnes liées, par exemple, au chômage ou le renforcement des compétences des gens, parce qu'on sait qu'en ce moment difficile, beaucoup de PME sont touchés par le coronavirus et c'est vraiment important de pouvoir venir en aide aussi sur ce plan-là. J'ai parlé de tout ce qui touche par exemple à la media literacy, aux fausses informations et au soutien pour les parents, les enfants et les éducateurs, mais aussi le soutien qu'on apporte aux organisations qui veulent aider les communautés religieuses, parce qu'on sait que dans plusieurs pays, parmi les mesures de prévention qui ont été prises, c'est fermer les lieux de culte. Donc, il y a vraiment une panoplie d'aspects sur lesquels, quand une ONG travaille sur ces aspects-là, on peut octroyer des coupons publicitaires gratuits. J'ai mentionné enfin notre initiative qui est Data for Good et avec laquelle on a pu mettre en place des cartes pour voir en fait, pour comprendre comment le Covid-19 est en train de s'étendre, et ces cartes sont accessibles pour les chercheurs et ça leur permet vraiment de voir les tendances et de pouvoir faire des recommandations pour tout ce qui est stratégie de riposte. Je pense que j'ai résumé l'essentiel. Si vous avez des questions, je me ferai un plaisir d'y répondre pendant la session questions et réponses. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much. I think we are quite lucky that we've had presenters who are able to also serve as their own interpreters. So we thank you for that. We can now move on to our final presenter. I note that we are already about an hour into our hour and a half webinar. I think because we are doing the interpretation consecutively instead of simultaneously, so has impacted the time quite significantly. So we will ask Nelson to give us a 10 minutes presentation, after which I will attempt a 5-minute interpretation so that we can at least leave some time for the participants who have a lot of. So Nelson, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you for that. Unfortunately, I cannot speak French. I can speak Arabic if this was an English and Arabic panel. So I'm going to talk about the work that DeFi now is doing. And I'm going to, I'll have a presentation, but it will be like really, really quick. And I'll try to observe. I'm just timing myself here to be able to be within the 10 minutes or slightly more or less. So the work of DeFi now is around digital rights. So I'm just sharing my screen. Host, can you enable sharing screen?
So I think you should be able to share your screen, I believe.
If saying the host disabled screen sharing. Just once you do that, let me know. So our work is around digital rights, and we work on digital rights and also promoting trust online and among different communities. With regard to COVID-19, we are seeing 3 problems that are kind of related. The COVID-19 has impacted people globally, but in the context of what we're seeing in information sharing and technology, we're seeing the problem manifesting in 3 different kind of facets. The number one is awareness. Just because people are now in their houses, there are lockdown measures, the traditional information sharing methodologies are not working, especially on awareness. That includes billboards. I was telling people the other day, what is the use of billboard if everyone is indoors? That includes billboards and even traditional awareness mechanisms that involves house to house or T-shirts. So all these things seem to not to be effective. So people have to resort to digital technologies and even using radio with communities and stuff like that. So we're seeing a great challenge that is being faced by governments and by organizations and NGOs in terms of creating awareness. The second problem is to do with mitigation, mitigating misinformation. So this is also a very big challenge. We're seeing that misinformation is spreading rapidly across the continent on our COVID-19. This everything, like just last week alone, we have been tackling misinformation relating to people sharing videos from the migrant boats that have sunk in Libya in 2014. People are sharing it and saying, hey, these are bodies of countries that are dumping COVID-19 infected bodies in the sea, and don't eat seafood because of that. So we're seeing a lot of misinformation, and some of it can be shared, people sharing it as jokingly, but others have more devastating impact. I'll just ask the people who are handling the tech to enable the screen sharing for me as soon as they can. So these are issues that are really impacting the continent. The third problem is related to preventive measures, and this is related to information that can lead you, that information and technology that can help you prevent the spread of COVID-19. We're talking about direction for where you can get testing, directives from the government that is being shared around on what is the time for the curfew and what is happening in the country. So information that is very specific regarding the prevention. And we are also talking about technologies that can help in prevention, everything from geodata, from mobile phone and all these kind of things. So these are the 3 layers of kind of information sharing challenges that we're seeing. And from the part of DeFi now, the intervention that we have been kind of deploying is related to information sharing. So we have been working on like information sharing and fact checking interventions. And in that, I really wish I could share my screen. I'm not able because the graphics illustrate it better. but in that front, we're looking at like three kind of major interventions. Yes?
Sorry, let me just pop in real quick. So I just wanted to let people know that we've been able to resolve the interpretation issue. Thanks so much to our colleagues at AFDB. So we invite everyone to go ahead and select English if they are Francophone, so that they can get the English translation. They can get the appropriate translation from Nelson, so we don't have to do it at the end. So just wanted to let people know. And also, if we can get Nelson's screen sharing to be enabled, that would be great. Nelson, please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So like when we looked at the intervention, like we're looking at three main things. We're looking at communities of practice. So when you look at communities of practice, we're talking about health professionals, media, citizens, community leaders. We're talking about fact checkers. These are all communities of practice. And we're also looking at information sources. So when you look at information sources, like the Ministry of Health, like some of the information sources, trusted information sources that my colleague from Facebook was talking about, we're looking at Ministry of Health, WHO, CDC Africa, government task forces. And then in between, we are also looking at platforms and mediums. One of the problems that we have noticed is that most of the communication has been one-sided. So we have a communication from the Ministry of Health that is coming to the citizens. But the feedback loop around that is not very effective. So if the Ministry of Health shares something, a lot of the citizens at times have feedback to the Ministry of Health or have feedback to the government. That feedback loop has not been very effective. And that's why we find hashtags at times, citizens resort to using hashtags. In Kenya, for example, just the day before yesterday, the government says they have spent about $40 billion shillings in the response to COVID-19 so far. The citizens went and created a hashtag and said 40 billions. So around these hashtags, there was a lot of feedback that is going around, citizens sharing information around that. We're also seeing citizens sharing information around quarantine measures, citizens resorting to all kinds of things. One of the things that we are continuing to work on and we want to improve more is to ensure that that feedback is channeled to the authority and the authority is able to communicate back to the people. In some cases, people are saying, hey, there is someone around my neighborhood who is having this kind of symptoms. How is this information channeled back to the authorities and to people who have, okay, I'm able to share my screen now? Good. I think there is, are you able to see my screen? Yes, so like when this screen here, I just highlighted the three elements. So we look at the communities, so you have citizens, you have health professionals, you have fact checkers, and you have the media. These are all communities that exist and that want to share information and want to interact with information. On the other hand, we have information sources. That's the ones in yellow. You look at the Ministry of Health, you look at the WHO on the far corner at the end, you look at the CDC Africa, you look at government task forces. All these entities are sharing information that are of use to the citizens and to the communities. These are of use to the journalists, that are of use to the different populations. In the middle, I put Check COVID. These are the kind of the platforms. In Check COVID there, you can substitute the platforms. In Ethiopia, we find Telegram is the biggest there. In Ethiopia, Telegram is king. In other countries, we find WhatsApp is the most predominant. Other countries, we find Facebook and the rest. These are all mediums that people use to share information. I thank Facebook for the bot and also for the COVID-19 information centers. So like now, this information, I put arrows there pointing both sides. That implies that the information should go both sides. So that means citizens should be able to get information and also reply back. One of the challenges that we're also seeing, governments are not responsive. Governments are not responsive fast enough. At this time of COVID-19, you need to improve your response time. In South Sudan, just like 3 weeks ago, we had information that just came overnight that said, rumor spread that says taking tea without sugar will help you prevent COVID-19. People woke up in the morning around 6 a.m. Everyone was taking tea without sugar, and people are roaming around telling people, hey, even your mothers are coming to you and telling you, take tea without sugar. This misinformation spreads very fast. And for us to be able to respond to it, we need to be very effective and we need to be fast in our response. I was just going to share a few examples of how young people are using technology. This is an example of a young person in South Sudan. His name is Emmanuel Lobido. He created something called Voice Post. Basically, it's a blue bicycle with a microphone in front and mounted with a battery at the back. So when people talk about technology, they really want to talk about the extreme cutting edge end. But when we are talking about communities that don't have access, as the doctor has said, we need to think of low tech and that can reach a community. So this bicycle is mounted with this and has awareness information that goes around. So in one day, each of these bicycles, right now he has 25 of them, covers around 20 to 25 kilometers every day. And this is a lot of people in villages that don't have access to the internet at times. And also radio might be challenging, or even the language might not be there. So this young person roams around and provides information to them. And for me, I see this as technology. This is a very useful technology that is being used. This young person with the 25 bicycles, they reach thousands of people every day in places otherwise wouldn't have been reached with other things. On the other hand, we have the 211 check. This is the fact-checking platform that we have. And these ones provide fact-checking on misinformation that's being shared. The screen that what you see is the video that I talked to you about, the video roaming around, someone saying, this video is COVID-19 bodies being thrown into the sea, don't eat seafood. We find these people immediately fact check and then reply back and say, this is not true. This is the actual original one on this side. And the people who do this are the fact checkers. So we have a community of fact checkers. This is our Cameroon fact checkers. These are fellows who are from our fellowship in Cameroon called Facts Matter. These are 8 of them. So they have a group, they work daily to get all the misinformation that is being shared. They fact check it and they return back to the community. Currently, we have fact checkers in Cameroon. We also have some in South Sudan, and we are launching some in Sudan very soon. So when earlier on I was talking about the community of practice, this is the community of practice that I'm talking about. When I talk about tech, so I talked about the tech from the low-end tech. I talked about the misinformation kind of sharing. We have also high-end tech. Like, for example, what you're seeing on the screen here, this is a group that invented something called Yella. It's an IoT device. So this is basically a smartwatch that you put in your hand, and it is being used for self-quarantine. Governments don't have the capacity to do mass quarantine, especially in Africa and other places also. So this is a device that if you have people who arrive into the country, they can strap this device on and it can measure their daily temperature, but it can also see, provide geodata that can be used for contact tracing later on. This is a very high tech. So I just want to end by kind of put 2 questions that I see as like kind of a great challenges, especially when it comes to tackling misinformation. I'm glad my colleague from Facebook is here, but also when it comes to utilizing technology. The one challenge that I have is about scale. We need to scale. A solution for 100 people is not solution for all. And especially when we talk for the context of Africa and the continent, and also globally, we need solutions that scale. And one of the things that we have been seeing around, we have a lot of solutions that are kind of cute, can be demonstrated, can be shown to few people, but in terms of its scalability and robustness across the continent or across countries, we're not seeing that large-scale deployment. And that even applies to misinformation, tackling misinformation. By the time we fact-check one information, it has already been seen by about, let me say, like few thousands. Like, especially with WhatsApp groups, it has been seen by 10,000. You do fact-checking, and it only reaches 100 people. So you find that like the intervention is not commensurate to the impact that is being created by these biases. And the last thing that I talk about is about affordability, and I'm going to quote a very famous Indian surgeon and an entrepreneur who said that if a solution is not affordable, it is not a solution. And that is something that, like, as we continue to progress, I think the continent really needs to face these. We're talking about like rapid testing. We're talking about people talking about vaccine. People are talking about what? How can these things, like, how can we make these things affordable so that people can be able to access it? Even when we talked about the technologies, that's why I'm saying like that young man using the bicycle, it's a very good thing because it's affordable for people to reach out this. So like the questions of affordability, access, and scale is something that like all of us need to talk about, even when we're talking about like technologies and stuff like that. And I find that the next frontier that people need to talk about, that these solutions that we're creating needs to move to, especially with testing. Like right now in South Sudan, the testing is not accessible to everyone. And I can say this about like a lot of the countries in Africa. The testing, your access to testing is a function of your proximity to the health center, is a function of your access to transport, is a function even of your access to information about testing. So these are all things that have to do with affordability and to some extent privilege. So like, how do we move forward to that? Sorry, I provided more questions at the end than answers, but I think I will stop my intervention here. And this slide I'll drop the link to the chat. So everyone, all the participants can access it and they have the links to see some of the intervention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nelson. I think you have actually ended your presentation by answering one of the most prevalent questions about your presentation, which is where can we get your link? The link to your presentation. So
I'll drop it.
Go ahead and drop it in the chat, and I think that will answer many questions. I have a number of questions that I've been putting together as the presentations have been going around. I'm mindful of the time, so I'll go straight ahead. Nelson, I'll start with you because your presentation is the most recent. In terms of some of the interventions that you have talked about, particularly about scaling, and also looking at affordability of interventions. What would be your recommendation in terms of the alliances that civil society will need to make with government in order to ensure that some of these interventions are scaled up from whatever micro projects context they are in to something that is a bit more widespread or generalized within the. So that will be a question for you to look at. And then for Dr. CISSE Kane, there's a lot of questions around technology being perceived as expensive. So what if I don't have a smartphone to access, social media or to access information? I don't have, equipment like a computer to attend a webinar. So particularly for the most low-income populations within our countries, what interventions would you recommend in terms of low-cost access to technology? What are some of the ways that we can use technology that doesn't have to be about being able to have an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy? For Bakisa, we have quite a few questions which I've grouped for you in two main buckets for you to talk us through. One of them is also around the links to the Facebook initiatives and platforms that have been created for COVID. So if there is an easy way to drop those links or to share those links, that would be great. A lot of our participants are talking about interventions, grassroots interventions that they are creating in terms of trying to spread information around communications on social media and so on and so forth. So they are asking you in particular, well, can Facebook help us with this or with that? So I think I will rephrase the question and ask you, does Facebook have some sort of public service initiative to support grassroots CSOs that might have some interesting social media campaigns or initiatives in the context of the COVID pandemic? And then another set of questions that I've kind of put together into one bucket is, this is all great what Facebook is doing for the COVID-19, but before COVID-19, there was Ebola and so on and so forth. So are there any plans within Facebook to kind of scale up what is being done, the best lessons from the COVID, other pandemics that we have as well. So I will invite Nelson maybe to take the lead with your question. Thank you.
Yeah, so the question on like how the civil society can create alliances with the government in order to enhance scalability. I think I would say like one of the things that needs to happen, they should be participatory decision making, and the government needs to allow more people to come into the table. I would say these like, for example, one of the issues that we're seeing, like religious leaders. We know this very well, like in the continent, religious leaders command a lot of respect and a lot of following. But one of the things that I've been seeing, religious leaders are not included in the task forces for the government on COVID-19. I've seen this in South Sudan, but I've also seen this in other countries. What happens is that you find that it's such a time of pandemic, people really trust very few institutions. And people's trust in that, people are very suspicious of the government, and people are also very suspicious of many other institutions. But a lot of people are resorting to their religious basics because we are a very religious society to some extent in a lot of countries. So how can governments include these people also in their messaging and their communications so that you can gain more understanding from the ground and from other people? Someone is saying they're not hearing me clearly. Can you hear me? Okay, so in the other elements also, you need to bring youth, you need to bring women groups into the table to discuss, so that you'll be able to find a bigger voice. And that's a question of representation. Also, there is another question of kind of accountability and resource allocation. And we find this like at such a time, like there is a lot of issues to do with resource allocation and accountability. This can be geographical issues, like people saying my state is not having this amount of resources, but it can be issues to do with identity groups. So someone can say like the youth group is not represented by this or this one. So how do we ensure that like the civil society to create alliances that can also monitor such allocation of resources, even if you want to scale campaigns, if you want to scale resource allocation, if you want to scale all this, how do you do that? The third point that I want to kind of, and will be my last, is that like we need to accelerate implementation. So I find a lot of organizations right now putting out kind of call for grants and what, and they say, okay, reply in 2 months. Like seriously, like if we're talking about 3 months, like seriously, like this thing is increasing by the day. We definitely need to get rid of some of these archaic kind of bureaucratic processes especially when we want to fast track solutions. If young people have solutions, if the civil society have solutions, we need to put a better mechanism that can fast track response. Instead of saying there is government is allocating this grant for scaling this, but we will reply to you in 3 months. Where will we be in 3 months? Like just look at this month now. Last month, a lot of us had different plans. Look at us now. Most of us are indoors. We don't know how the dynamics will change in the next 3 months or in the next 2 months. So there is a lot of, the alliances should focus on increasing the response time to such, especially to interventions that are very critical on information sharing and also on combating COVID-19. I'll stop here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nelson. Dr. Kane?
Oui, William, enfin, oui, Nana. Donc, moi, je pense que nous sommes partis dans une logique panafricaine. Donc, cette logique panafricaine, elle doit continuer. I am annoyed by the voice behind. Is it possible to?
Sorry, there's a voice behind. Is there?
Yes,
maybe you know, when you're speaking, you don't need to listen to the voice.
Okay, all right. So maybe we can just discontinue the interpretation, please. We will take the response from Dr. Kane, and then I will sum it up in French. Thank you. Okay. Please go ahead.
Donc, je disais que l'esprit panafricain doit continuer à prévaloir. Et donc, je disais que la logique qui prévaut de solidarité et d'inclusion, elle doit aussi associer la société civile. Nous avons des problèmes, nous sommes contents d'avoir réseaux sociaux comme Facebook pour aider, mais il y a beaucoup de gens qui n'ont pas de connexion parce qu'ils n'ont pas de quoi payer la connexion. Donc, moi, je verrais, par exemple, une coalition globale de la société civile qui va pousser à faire en sorte que cette task force mette sur la table des chefs d'État africains que les coûts d'Internet en Afrique, ça baisse. Ça, c'est une mesure concrète qui permet, justement, quand on aura des fake news, d'avoir une assiette de clients, une assiette d'utilisateurs beaucoup plus large. Actuellement, le problème, c'est d'abord la connexion, la connectivité, les coûts. L'autre problème, c'est que ce sont les langues nationales. Et tout ça, là, la société civile est très, très forte là-dessus. Et nous pouvons, si on est associé au processus, nous pouvons donner des solutions. Comme je vous ai dit aussi, la société civile, c'est les cultures locales. Parce que le problème, si on ne fait pas attention, c'est qu'on va essayer de résoudre le problème à travers les réseaux sociaux. Mais les réseaux sociaux, c'est d'abord un outil qui est là pour aussi se développer, pour aussi faire des clients. Donc, je disais que les réseaux sociaux, c'est une bonne chose. Ils sont là pour nous aider et tout. Mais nous, on a du potentiel. Il faut regarder le problème autrement. C'est-à-dire comment les réseaux sociaux peuvent être en appoint à ce dont nous avons besoin. C'est-à-dire utiliser l'information par nous-mêmes, pour nous-mêmes. Pas simplement d'avoir un opérateur ou un réseau social qui vient nous proposer ces solutions. Nous aussi, nous avons des solutions. Et les solutions que nous avons, c'est des solutions qui viennent des tripes des Africains, qui viennent des racines. Et je vous ai dit qu'il y a des Africains qui sont en train de créer des choses. Comment on peut utiliser ce Covid pour arriver à une plateforme continentale où on va susciter l'innovation? Comment toutes les sociétés civiles qui sont emmenées par les plateformes continentales comme ECOSOCC, comment elles peuvent mettre sur la table des questions réelles, la question des coûts, la question de la souveraineté numérique. Actuellement, toutes nos données numériques sont gérées par des multinationales. Donc, comment on peut, nous, en tant qu'Africains, ayant des solutions africaines, puisque actuellement, on ne peut même pas aller en Europe, on doit trouver des solutions chez nous. Il y a certaines solutions, on ne peut pas les avoir simplement en mettant en place un réseau social. Il faut aller chercher la solution auprès des populations. Et la société civile est
donc,
là.
Pour pas souci de temps, est-ce qu'on pouvait résumer ça en anglais pour comme une minute? Parce qu'il doit laisser la place aux autres.
Ah, mais démocratie là, hein? Moi j'ai beaucoup de choses à dire. Hein?
Non, donc, parce que les temps pressent beaucoup.
Okay. Oui. No, I was saying that it's good to have a good management of fake news, but the question is how to have a global response through ICT. And a global response through ICT goes beyond the social networks. It's first about how to lower the price of the internet in Africa. We can imagine to have a global coalition of civil societies together with the task force to put on the table of the world that we have to lower the cost of internet in Africa. And it's very, very expensive. And even if you have the best fake news management, if you don't have the most of the people connected, you cannot see the solution. And the solution, the problem is not only about fake news. It's about solutions. And to get solutions, we need to let the people, the African people, talk. And we need to give them the mic. And we need to get their insight from their own languages and cultures. I talked about Artemisia. I talked about the COVID organics. Those people are Africans and they have solutions. And I'm sure we have dozens of solutions. How can we come with a platform to put all this together to foster innovation? And civil society is very strong in that. And I'm appealing the task force put by the African Union to work with global civil society coalitions to put on the table these important issues: how to foster innovation, how to get Africans inside, and how to create a sort of lobby, a sort of group where we can defend our interests, because we are paying the internet very, very expensive, and this is not normal. And even if you have the best solutions, we cannot share it because you have to put all your budget in the internet. And all these things cannot be dealt with only by having a sort of by not having an inclusive system. We have to be more inclusive. I salute the Pan-African vision. I salute the way that Africa is dealing with, but it should be more inclusive, putting in place global coalition of civil society, strong civil society organizations that can bring on the table the real issues on how to use internet. For example, in the schools, how to help the youth to have school online, all these things. But this cannot dealt with only if we are not together, if we are not in a global coalition. And I'm appealing for more inclusivity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kane. I think this is where we come in as ECOSOCC, being the bridge between civil society and the policymakers to ensure that some of the key recommendations coming out from these sessions are channeled to the appropriate authorities. We will now hear from Madame Bakisa from Facebook.
Thank you for the great questions. When my colleagues were answering the questions, I dropped the links to the different initiatives I mentioned in the chat box. Sorry. And now I think two more questions were asked. It's one, how we support grassroots intervention on our platform, and I actually did mention in the brief overview that I gave a few the initiatives that we put in place, and I put the links there in the chat. I also mentioned the fact that really the role of civil society is central in keeping societies informed and to raise also awareness and build public awareness campaigns. And Facebook is support civil society organization. The person actually who works with civil society more closely is my colleague Jean, who was supposed to be on this panel. So my colleague Jean is actually our program manager when it comes to human rights. So she's the right POC when it comes to everything related to CSO. But there is a number of ways we support civil society organization, and the links are there, and I invite you really to go through them and check. I will also leave my contact in case any of you have questions. Do not hesitate to get in touch with me. I'll put it in I'll put my contacts in the chat box later. The last question I think was related to Ebola and the lessons that we are learning during this COVID-19 crisis and how we can replicate them. So I think you will all agree with me that this is really like a new situation for us. We were not prepared for it. It's really unprecedented, and we are all learning globally, whether it's tech companies like ours, whether it's governments, whether it's civil society. We are really learning through this process. And of course, the best outcome would be for us to use the lessons learned during this pandemic and be able to apply them later when we face any similar situation. But something I would like also to say here is that for the Ebola crisis, especially in DRC, we actually not long ago launched an initiative with WhatsApp, and we to make sure that people get the right information, people are able to identify false news by themselves, because it's really crucial to fight misinformation, that people have the digital literacy to be able to know when a news is false or not, and they know how to access the tools that can help them in doing the first first screening of the news. So we conducted a national-wide campaign on traditional media and on our platform to really educate people on literacy. And I would like to take the opportunity to jump some of the topics that were mentioned by my colleagues, and I agree. I really align that actually the access to internet is one of the key issues that we face on the region, and Facebook is aware of this issue, and that is why we are actually committed to bring online more than 50% of the world that is not yet online. And our connectivity efforts are focused on expanding and improving connectivity around the world through a number of long-term initiatives, partnerships, and also technology. Our approach is really based on 3 pillars. It's having a comprehensive approach, because we know there is not one solution to the problem. We need to have a more holistic strategy and approach to tackle the issue of connectivity. We also build blocks, partnership with others, and we also open to collaborate with all. And a few initiatives that I can mention is Free Basics. Free Basics is it's actually a service that we put in place through a partnership with mobile operator, and that provide people with access to basic services, including health information, job sites, education services, and communication tools, without data charges on their mobile phones. So it's like if you want to give people a taste of the internet while putting them relevant information, basic services for them. And they do not need to purchase any data bundles to get access to that, to Free Basics. Aside that, we also work with mobile operators to bring internet in rural areas, and we have different solutions such as building the fiber, and we did that. An example that comes in mind is what we did actually in Uganda. So we built around 717 kilometers of fiber to connect rural areas. We have other solutions like express Wi-Fi and so on. So I would also like to again put a caveat here and say that access to internet is it's not just a matter of bringing connectivity to people. It's also a matter of, as much as we invest in that, and we work with all stakeholders to bring internet to the people, there are also some steps to be that have to be fulfilled, like access to electricity. I think it was yesterday I was on a call with some religious communities, and we were talking about it, how they can shift to online, because now religious places are closed. So during the Ramadan, people need to continue to be connected together, to continue to pray as a community. And they were telling me that electricity is actually one of the key issues, because even when they have, even if they have smartphones, even if they have the money to buy bundles, when there is no electricity to charge their phones, that's also a big issue. So there are many really challenges that we have all to look at together and try to find solution. And I really like what Dr. Kane said about finding a local solution to local challenges. And that's actually the reason why we value the relationships and the partnership we have with our local partners, including civil society. And we constantly consult with them to understand better the issues that are facing, and the recommendations that they can make to us, so we can continue to improve our tools together and provide a better support. Again, I really like looking at challenges, including this crisis we are facing, as opportunities for us to look inside our communities, like what's working, what's not working, what are the solutions, what could be recommendations. And I hope we'll come out of this crisis stronger, with better solutions for people in local languages, and solutions that are actually fit for our different cultures. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much to you, Dr. Issa, as well as to Dr. Kane, and also to Nelson. Unfortunately, one of the drawbacks of having such interesting topics is that we don't have the time to address all of the questions within the time that we have for the webinar. We hope that so far what we've been able to discuss and touch on has been useful. We have your questions that have not been addressed in the chat also here. So we will make an effort to compile them to see if we can get some additional comment or clarification from our presenters, whom we're going to ask to maybe give us another 10 to 15 minutes of their time post-webinar. So just to let you know that if we haven't been able to get back to you, we will be making an effort to do so following the webinar. So again, let me take this opportunity on my behalf and that of ECOSOCC to thank our three presenters so much. We hope that we will remain together within the same network as we touch on some of these very important issues during the time of the pandemic. As it happens, the AFDB, which is one of the institutions that co-organized this webinar, also has some programming that are quite pertinent to the discussion underway. So before we close, our colleagues from AFDB will close us. Before they do, they will touch on what they are doing within this area. In particular, they have an initiative on community blogging, so they can talk to us a little bit about that. My colleague Najat will talk to us a little bit about the AFDB's work on community blogging, after which my colleague Luther will close the webinar. So thank you so much from my side, and I will hand over to Najat.
Okay, hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so thank you very much to all the speakers for their very interesting interventions, and I wish we had more time, but unfortunately we are running out of time, so I'll be super fast as well. As Ms. Balkissa Idesido said in a previous intervention, she was saying that that civil society has a crucial role in raising awareness and informing, especially in these times of health crisis. So obviously this is very true, and so do bloggers and digital influencers, as we have been discussing throughout this webinar. So I'll just present very quickly a project the bank is currently working on. So we're planning to create what we call a bloggers and a digital influences community. And so the bank plans to utilize the platform and the growing influence of these social media influencers and of these change makers, because this is what they are. They truly are change makers, as their opinions and observations inform public opinion and influence also decision making at all levels. We saw that their role was extremely crucial. So in this regard, we really want to set up this community that will be composed of digital influencers from across the continent. We'd like to have at least one digital influencer or blogger from one African country. And these bloggers and digital influencers will be identified based on regional representativeness, gender, the apolitical character, the area specialty, and the civil society engagement background, obviously. So we plan to create this community because we'd like to bring visibility to civil society engagement on the continent, and also on the bank's work in terms of civil society engagement. And we truly believe that they will serve as a great communications platform. So in the current context of COVID-19, which has highlighted new challenges such as the spread of fake news and misinformation, as we have been discussing throughout the webinar, the setting up of this community becomes very urgent. So we are accelerating the process, and it shall be very soon implemented. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Najat, for this important information. I'm sure that our participants will be reaching out to the bank for the next steps. I'm happy to invite our colleague Luther to close the session on behalf of the AFDB. Luther.
Thank you very much, Nana. I will switch to French since Najat spoke in English. Permettez-moi de joindre donc ma voix à celle de mes prédécesseurs en ligne sur le chat et de notre excellent modérateur en ligne. Merci beaucoup, Nana Osei. Vous saluez donc la haute intensité citoyenne du dialogue démocratique qui nous réunit depuis plusieurs semaines, depuis la survenance de cette crise du Covid-19. Nous avons régulièrement, avec assiduité, avec consistance, de manière engagée et quelquefois d'ailleurs passionnée, pendant cette semaine, échangé sur la portée de la pandémie, la réponse sanitaire, les impacts socio-économiques, les actions en cours qui sont portées par des organisations de la société civile crédibles, la mobilisation des ressources financières, l'intégration du genre dans la réponse et la contribution des technologies de l'information et de la communication, dont nous venons de conclure qu'elles recèlent d'une valeur ajoutée remarquable. L'utilisation de ces technologies de l'information et de la communication nous a malheureusement aussi montré ce matin que derrière les outils, la ressource humaine reste l'atout majeur pour des interactions. Nous savons compter avec votre indulgence pour ces aléas indépendants de notre volonté que nous avons pu observer. Et en revanche, toutes nos félicitations réitérées à nos panélistes, à Dr CISSE, à notre ami Nelson KWAJE et à Madame Balkissa, qui pour la petite histoire a dû remplacer au pied levé sa collaboratrice qui devait prendre la parole ce matin. Kudos à nos panélistes et à notre excellent modérateur. Nous avons, comme d'habitude, enregistré une participation massive et incisive de la société civile africaine et nous vous encourageons à mettre à jour vos organisations dans la base de données de la Banque africaine de développement qui nous permet de garder le contact avec vous et de vous informer régulièrement de nos activités. Avec ECOSOCC et de l'Union africaine, nous avons décidé de faire une halte parce que ces sessions se déroulaient chaque semaine sans discontinuer. Nous avons décidé donc de vous proposer dans l'entretemps un rapport circonstancié avec un plan d'action concrète qui sera généré de toutes les sessions de dialogue que nous avons eues. Nous allons donc vous donner rendez-vous cette fois-ci, non pas la semaine prochaine, mais dans 2 semaines, c'est-à-dire le 14 mai, parce que nous estimons que la société civile doit saisir l'opportunité de cette crise liée au Covid pour inscrire à l'agenda des solutions innovantes, pérennes, qui font écho aux besoins immédiats et futurs des communautés. La question de la responsabilité mutuelle des acteurs, la redevabilité et l'obligation de rendre compte par rapport aux différentes politiques et aux mécanismes de réponse en cours, la voix au chapitre des populations dans la mise en œuvre des politiques publiques de santé, dont le Covid constitue aujourd'hui un baromètre prégnant dans plusieurs pays, toutes ces solutions doivent être appréhendées à l'aune d'une participation des organisations de la société civile africaine, parce qu'il s'agit non seulement d'apporter des réponses concrètes, mais aussi de penser au futur et d'imaginer ensemble un futur de l'Afrique à l'aune de la vision Agenda 2063, dans laquelle la participation citoyenne reste le référent en termes de transparence, de redevabilité et de mise en œuvre de notre agenda commun. Je vais terminer par dire que nous sommes à un moment charnière où il s'agit justement de produire en Afrique et pour les Africains, d'accélérer l'industrialisation et l'intégration régionale de l'Afrique, d'endogénéiser l'éducation, de libérer le capital humain en investissant sur la jeunesse, par exemple, et la société civile doit jouer sa partition. En attendant le rendez-vous du 14 mai, je voudrais une fois de plus saluer notre partenariat avec ECOSOCC et toute l'équipe d'ECOSOCC avec à sa tête mon frère et ami Mr. William Karou, dont je salue le leadership, et pour notre part, la division Société civile et engagement communautaire, dirigée par Mme Zeynep Touré, est prête à continuer de jouer sa partition. Vous aurez d'ailleurs bientôt un bulletin d'information qui sera produit par notre division qui capitalise l'ensemble de ces expériences également. D'ici là, continuons de respecter les gestes barrières, gardons notre rôle de veille citoyenne et de force de proposition. Thank you very much, Nana.
Thank you so much. I don't want to have the last word. So we hope to see all of you in 2 weeks. And thank you so much for making time to be with us. Bye for now.